Morning Baraka Ramadan special. Fiqh, your questions answered. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What was your menu today then?
Dal chawal.
Oh, bless.
You laugh.
Okay, so we have another question. It's from a young adult in the UK. They say, Assalamu alaikum. In the month of Ramadan, I missed a few of my fasts, but I don't remember the exact number of days.
Okay.
How many days do you recommend me to fast? And my other question is, does taking an inhaler in the periods of fasting break your fast medically if necessary?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. According to the Grand Marja, Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi, may Allah prolong his life, taking an inhaler does not break the fast. You can take an inhaler, it's not a problem. For those brothers and sisters out there who have asthma, it's perfectly allowed, doesn't break your fast, it doesn't invalidate it, you may continue. In terms of owing fast, and you're not sure how many you owe,
It's a bit more tricky.
it is best, well, I shouldn't say it is best because that means it's iffy, but I will say, according to the Maraja, and I've spoken to one of the scholars about this, he says that the amount that you are sure and certain of, you fast that many days.
Mhm.
Now, if you think there's two numbers, there's a lower and a higher, as in, I know I miss between 8 and 10 days. I'm not sure if it's 8, I'm not sure if it's 10, but I can be certain it's between,
It's one or the other.
It's one or the other. Then you do the minimum.
Oh,
Do the 8.
okay.
Do the 8 days, and that should suffice.
Okay.
What about for those people who were not born Muslim, became Baalik, and then embraced Islam? Do they have to make up their fast for being, the equivalent of, I don't know, somebody came Muslim when they were 50. Did they have 35 years? A man, does he have 35 years of?
Yes, he does. No, I'm joking. He
Fasted
doesn't.
to
No, he
make
doesn't.
up.
No, don't be silly. When someone, joins Islam, he's purified, and he's not. It is not mandatory upon him to make up, the ahkam of previous. So the prayers, the fast, the zakah, khums. That's not mandatory.
Mhm.
If the brother would like to do so,
There's ajr, there's ajr in it,
there's
yeah.
definitely, because it shows a bit of sincerity, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you, but it's not mandatory upon him, no.
And what about medication generally, the rulings around? So people obviously try to have it at suhoor time, if they can last them through the day, once a day. But what about other types that perhaps people aren't so aware of that could actually invalidate your fast?
I mean, all medications will invalidate your fast in terms of tablets. You're not allowed to take any tablets of such. Injections, yes, you are allowed to take injection for medicinal purposes. That is allowed, according to Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi.
Not injecting water in your arm to hydrate you and stuff like this.
No, not that. But maybe, if a diabetic, wants to inject himself with insulin, he can keep the fast and inject himself with insulin.
mashallah,
That's okay.
mashallah.
According to Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi,
Mhm.
that's fine. The only injection which is now, I think it's called enema, I believe it's called. That's not allowed. That would invalidate the fast. Otherwise, other injections are allowed.
And why would that invalidate the fast? How does that work?
Well, it's on the terms of the water being able to go back into the stomach.
Okay.
Along those lines, that's why it's not allowed.
Hmm. Very, very interesting.
So people who, for instance, had fast to make up last year, for instance, and were meant to make it up in the year and never got, because maybe due to health,
Yes.
and then aren't able to fast this year due to the same health issue, do they have to have their cut-off point? Do they what happens with their fast from last year? Do they continue them, or
we discussed this on one of our on another show on the Imam Hussein TV. So we discussed that if you aren't able to make up your what is owed to you, what you owe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what do you do? There are other things. I mean, there's you can pay
Kafara?
It's not really a kafara, because a kafara is a penalty. This is more of an alternative or a substitute.
Okay.
Because you were ill, it's not that you've got a penalty to pay.
Yes.
It's more.
It differs.
There's a substitute, as in you can fast again, or you could feed 60 people. You give a month, which is just about 750 grams, I believe, of rice or wheat or raisins or dates. You can give something like that, instead of fasting. Or you can open 60 people's fasting and give them iftar. So there's substitutes for you to do instead of fasting. So you can do them before the time runs out. And if the time does run out, then there is also another alternative. There's there's money you can give and things like that. However, there's no need for you to take that to run out of time. You've got 1 year from Ramadan to another Ramadan. It's plenty of time. If you can't make it up, just beforehand, do the substitutes. Pay I don't want to say kafara because it's not kafara.
Not kafara, yeah.
Pay the alternative, or give some wheat or flour or raisins.
So speaking about kafara, sorry, sister, but speaking about kafara, what about people who they're Muslim by name, but not by practice, but then they get to understand the religion? Because many people are born to Muslim families.
Yes.
The family didn't practice. They don't really have an idea about Islam, but they get somewhere on their own journey, and then they switch on. They switch on.
This is why it's so important that those people who are born Muslim, for our children, we teach them the ahkam, and we tell them about Ramadan. And to be honest, there are so many people who are not practicing, but in Ramadan they keep the fast. There's so many, mashallah, we have so many non-hijabis that are fasting in Ramadan.
Yeah.
That are Ramadan. So, it's to say that, they weren't practicing or this and that. It's not really, I don't say it's not an excuse, but it's very uncommon to see that. But at the same time,
period.
Yeah,
some people they come from a family that's not religious.
Yeah.
They brought up in that environment, and they just didn't really know. They knew there was a Muslim. They had a Muslim name. They got a Muslim heritage, but they had no practice around them. But then in their own journey, they go to uni, they meet other Muslims, whatever. They get somewhere in their life, but they start to practice a religion. Then are those fasts from when they became Balik on their neck? Do they have to make them up? Do they have to pay kafara? What do they do? What's their situation?
The situation is that were they practicing Muslims? Did they accept Islam? And were they, were they practicing? Then they have to give, then if they're neglecting, fast on purpose, which is haram, then there's a kafara to pay for that. And
but if they were jahil,
that's it.
Just Muslim by name, by identity.
Allahu Akbar. May God forgive them. May God forgive them for that.
I mean.
But they would, I believe so, that they would have to make. I need to check on that actually, but I would believe that because
something would be incumbent on them.
It will be incumbent, not just on them, but there's like I said, we were discussing this before, that in the Quran, the order of fasting is upon every human being. It's not just Muslims; it's everyone. The Quran addresses the people.
Nice.
So it's like the Christians and the Jews and the Hindu, everyone has to
But I think with it's interesting because even though people, you were talking about ladies who don't observe hijab and even they'll fast, but it's surprising actually how many people find and perhaps not from the school of Ahl Bayt as much as the other schools, that Shahr Ramadan is their central point of their spirituality.
Yes.
And that is what connects them to being a Muslim. So whether they pray in the rest of the year, they don't observe, and they wear all sorts of clothes.
Ramadan's a big thing to them.
It's a big thing.
So
it's actually maybe that point of guidance where Allah will.
Indeed, we need to help. We need to help these people, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to say that Allah will forgive them and this and that. And inshallah Allah will. But when we think about it, it's like someone who's a Muslim but doesn't pray. Those qadha prayers add up. Do you owe those prayers? Yeah, you do. Will Allah forgive you for them? Inshallah, definitely He will.
What if a Muslim says, "Well, I'm a good person. I don't hurt anybody. I give charity. I do this. I do that." And I haven't done my prayers.
Still have to fast. Still have to pray. There's no excuse. I mean, the only excuses for not fasting is you're ill, you're traveling, you're pregnant, you've lost consciousness, you lost sanity. That's it, really.
Because we're living in a strange time now. We're living in an era where there's probably the most Muslims living in the Western world, or compared to in past times. And I don't know if people are losing their identity, or some people are developing their own brand of Islam. I mean, I watched a TV show once where there was Muslims all together, and everybody went to make salam. One woman said, "Well, I don't really, I tend to just go away for quiet meditation. I'm not really into all that. So I have my own connection with God. So it's good you lot doing the Jama'ah and that, but I'm gonna go and sit in another room."
That's excellent.
And
that's excellent. There's nothing wrong with that. However, we have Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And what was his role? Or to tell us to go meditate in a room? No. He is the example. He is who we copied, we aspire to become like. He taught us, and he taught through action. So if Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi did it, we have to do it.
We don't know more than him.
Exactly. It's not that we don't know more than him, we don't know better than him. 100%.
So although the person may be sincere in their connection
Yeah.
to God,
It is not
there's
the method.
still prescribed, regimented practices that we hear and we obey
Yes.
based on the Quran and not based
Definitely.
on
So there's no
nafs.
excuse for missing the prayers and missing the fasts.
Okay.
But having said that, I mean, I think there's a difference, isn't there? Because what you're saying and not to confuse it. So, for instance, when people go out to religious ziyaras or visitations, I know amongst women, and I don't know about men, but I've seen women, they'll go in groups where they'll do, certain du'as, they'll do it together. It's a group thing, which is not obviously a recommended thing, but it helps them. But then somebody who wants to do their own worship is absolutely allowed to do that. It's
Indeed, we're not saying that don't do extra and don't have your own unique style.
Yeah.
When it comes to matam, we know that the Pakistanis do it a little different from the Iranians. We do it a little different from the Arabs. We do it a little different from the Africans. We have our own styles and we have our own identity and we have our own methods. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, there are certain things prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which we have to do in accordance with Rasulullah.
And you can't choose something else as your alternative. Like, say, for example, something that says, when people do salah, I go and do matam because that's my closeness.
Exactly.
Like, you're just doing an alternative.
Exactly. And it's like if you go to Hajj, there's certain things you have to do.
Yeah.
You can't make up your own Hajj and say, well, I'm not going to even do tawaf. I'm just going to
stare at the
stare at
Kaaba.
it or you can't do that.
No, it's an interesting one, definitely. So any other tips before we finish?
Tips, okay, first of all, if you do miss your fast, please write them down somewhere. Have a tally chart or whatever, God forbid you have a tally.
But better than forgetting, even use a notebook in your phone.
Just
or
write
something.
them down somewhere. If you can't complete them by the whole year, there is an alternative. There's a substitute that you can do. So it doesn't mean that you have to fast. You can pay money and do something else like that. For those who were in a state of jahiliyyah and were Muslim, knew about it, may Allah forgive you. But if you can try and pay back. If not, go see your local scholar or ambassador of your marja and organize something. And get some sort of diagnosis and prescription of what to do in that situation.
For sure.
And just finally, in terms of when you want to feed people and you've got to make up fasts, who would you recommend would be the best source to give that to?
Good question. I would like to say give it to whoever's easy. So go to your local mosque and sponsor an iftar. But let's be honest, there's people out there who need it more.
Who are definitely needy.
Who are needy and need it more.
It doesn't have to be a Muslim, does it? Just a needy person.
Exactly.
Poor, miskeen is miskeen, right?
Yeah, miskeen is miskeen. But in terms of fasting, it has to be Muslims.
Okay.
In terms of fasting, but in general, no. For charity purposes, it can be anybody.
I stand corrected. Thank you.
And sometimes it's even cheaper to go abroad and feed people abroad.
But that should be the incentive. It should be to feed the people.
Why not? If it's cheaper and they're more needy, you're killing two birds with one stone there.
Bosh.
So,
So you can basically just go to charity, renowned, somebody you trust, and somebody back home in your villages.
Yeah, definitely. Whether it's Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Africa, and any third world country where people are starving.
Okay.
Muslims are starving, definitely.
All right then. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And inshallah, you have a blessed day.
I will do my best.
And please remember us in your du'as.
I will definitely remember you. Please remember me in your du'as, inshallah.
Thank you so much. That's all we've got time for. And we wish our viewers a blessed day too. Keep us in your du'as.